WDET is supported by the College of Business Administration at University of Detroit Mercy. UDM's Master of Business Administration is designed to accommodate the career needs of professionals across a variety of work organizations. More information at business.udmercy.edu.
It's the Metro on 101.9 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham.
And I'm Nick Austin. Today on the program, the Osborne Neighborhood Alliance has a new plan to offer affordable housing to Detroit residents. We'll talk with the director of the nonprofit to learn more.
But first, the history of Detroit is fascinating. From its indigenous roots to its French occupation, and while some know about its founding, little is known about the city's involvement in the U.S. Civil War. In 1863, as the Civil War raged on, then President Abraham Lincoln delivered the Emancipation Proclamation. Following the speech, about 1,000 black men in Detroit answered the call, running to fight for freedom for millions of enslaved people. A new archaeological discovery points to where black soldiers trained in Detroit before heading south to fight. Joining us on the show to explain Detroit's involvement in the Civil War is Tom Perkins. Tom is a local journalist covering a variety of topics, and he recently wrote the article in BridgeDetroit titled, "Detroit's Lost Civil War Site Has Been Found." Tom, thanks for being here.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
So what is the discovery specifically, and how did it happen?
A small team of local archaeologists and historians had a bit of a hunch that they knew where the site called Camp Ward might be, and so they checked around on the city's east side at Campo Park, and they think they have found pretty good evidence of where the barracks at the camp once stood, and it's important because, as you mentioned, this is where black soldiers who lived in Detroit and Canada and Southeast Michigan trained before heading south. So they're reviewing what they got and looking at their next steps.
Yeah. So, who was part of the 102nd United States Colored Infantry? You just talked a little bit about it, but it was a collection of black men from around the area.
Yeah. So it was about 1,000 men, and as you mentioned, in Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, basically overnight, black men were allowed to fight in the war, and as the folks who I spoke with put it, this was a really good idea for the Union Army. These were folks who weren't just fighting to preserve the Union, but they were freedom fighters. They were fighting for their own freedom. They were fighting for their family's freedom. As one historian, Dale Rich, put it, he said there were a bunch of men who wanted to fight back against the masters who had done things like beat them and rape their wives. These guys were out there on a mission, and they trained in Detroit. About 1,000 of them headed south, and were a part of about 200,000 black men that joined the fight and really turned the tide of the war at a time when things really weren't looking good for the North.
That's a perfect segue, because that was my next question. According to historians, why was this such a significant change in the war during that time after that speech was given from then President, of course, Abraham Lincoln, and you see this uptick in black men joining the Army? So what significance there was found there?
Yeah, I mean, the Robert Lee was on the march, and there was some, I think, exhaustion among Union troops at the time, and so you got 200,000 fresh men coming in, and as one historian put it, on a mission. I mean, that's I think there were about 1.2 million men who fought for the Union Army, and I mean at that point, there's a good chunk of them that are dead or injured or just fatigued from several years of war. So, I mean, this is like, you know, I don't think it can be understated, like how big of a contribution how much of a force they were, and how it really turned the tide of the war.
Yeah. So, you know, thinking about that site, it's on the east side. You said it's Campo Park and it's Camp Ward at the time. So what do we see happening next? What have you spoken with historians and archaeologists about excavation? Excuse me.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, what they did is they and there were some local historians and archaeologists, and they scanned. They used sort of like a ground radar to scan the park, Campo Park on the Near East Side, sort of near, not too far from Lafayette Park. Mm-hmm. But what they found was evidence of the Black Bottom neighborhood, which, of course, was demolished in the racist urban renewal project in the 60s and 70s to make way for a freeway and other, quote unquote, you know, the urban renewal, new development. And that was just sort of buried. And so their scan revealed pieces of buildings that were in the Black Bottom, like foundations for homes that were on either side of the street that once ran through part of the park. There's evidence of a school, of a couple churches. And so they looked at old insurance maps from I think the early 1900s, and using that with maps from the Civil War, they were able to identify, like, okay, the foundations are right here, the street was right here, and then looking back at this older map, we know that the barracks were over here. So they were really able to pinpoint where the barracks once stood. Now, they don't know if, like, what remains of Camp Ward. It could be, you know, there could be pieces of the barracks. There could be you know, like the kitchen or bathroom, or, you know, they were training there. Maybe there's evidence of the training. You know, we just don't know right now. Mm-hmm. It's on private property, so they have to, you know, very carefully plan their next step, I would say.
Yeah, Tom Perkins, local journalist covering a variety of topics. This article that we're referring to right now was published in BridgeDetroit, titled "Detroit's Lost Civil War Site Has Been Found." And, you know, Tom, I think about preserving history, or the lack of preserving history, and I saw that there's a group who still commemorates and talks about what happened there at Camp Ward and some of the things that happened in Black Bottom in general. So what does this story tell us about preserving, or the lack of preserving, history?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the one of the groups that's involved, Michigan Underground Railroad Exploratory Collective, is you know, they're affiliated with the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History. You know, they're involved here, and I think one of the points that they're making is this is like a really important piece of Black history, but Black history is American history, and so I think that needs to be reframed and thought of in that way, and that's one of the things that they're trying to do here. And, you know, historically, yeah, there really isn't maybe enough focus on, especially when you're talking about the Civil War, on Black troops' contribution, and this is sort of an effort to shine a light on that.
Yeah, you know, I think about, of course, the movie Glory, which was one of the movies that introduced me to the knowledge there. And so having that and growing forward with that it was very, very important to have that knowledge, and also just learning and doing my own ancestry and behind the scenes look. Pretty sure I found family members who were also in the Civil War. So it's very, very important. Exactly. It's very, very important that we pull that cover back and try to take a look in the past and see how it impacts us today. So for you, what was something that you learned about Detroit, or just learned in general, that you just really, really enjoyed when reporting on the story?
I mean, to be honest, I knew nothing of Camp Ward. So just the very idea of its existence was news to me. And yeah, it's awesome. And, you know, yeah, like it's looking back at all the different layers there, it's just like what really gets me in my heart and soul is just the peek into the past that's preserved under there, the layers of it. I mean, you've got the black bottom, and then beneath that you've got the Civil War barracks, and then, I mean, who knows what's down below that. French, English, colonialists were there, indigenous folks. I mean, it's really just fascinating how those layers of the city's history and people who came here and did their thing, like that's there, and we're walking around on it, and we're playing the football and soccer and climbing on playground equipment above it, and it's just down there for us to see and learn about. And I think that's super fascinating.
I love that. I love that you brought that up too. Is one of my favorite things, just going back in those layers and just digging down and coming on up. So I want to say thank you so much, Tom Perkins, a local journalist covering a variety of topics. He recently wrote the article in BridgeDetroit titled "Detroit's Lost Civil War Site Has Been Found." Tom, thank you so much for joining us on the Metro, and I can't wait to learn more about this find.
Sweet. Thanks for having me.
This is the Metro on 1019 WDET. That was Tia Graham. I'm Nick Austin, and coming up, we'll discuss a new initiative by the Osborne Neighborhood Alliance to offer affordable housing to Detroit residents.
Welcome back to the Metro, right here on 1019 WDET FM. I'm Tia Graham.
And I am Nick Austin. And despite having a lot of housing in Detroit, access to affordable housing is still an issue. That's partly because there aren't enough move-in ready homes in the city. And that's left city officials, nonprofits, and caring citizens to come up with different ideas to ensure people are provided affordable housing. Quincy Jones, executive director of the Osborne Neighborhood Alliance, recently got one of his ideas green-lighted by the city. Earlier this month, Detroit City Council allowed his nonprofit to rehab 3 blighted properties on Maple Ridge Street. Quincy plans to turn these properties into duplexes, which will include 6 housing units and could house up to 36 people. It's known as the Maple Ridge Housing Project, and to discuss it now, we have Quincy Jones with us. Quincy, welcome to the Metro.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm happy to get into it, especially because I know we are all worried about how to create more affordable housing. So I want to get into the project. But before we do that, I want to learn a little bit more about the Osborne Neighborhood Alliance. For you, what is its mission, and how would you describe it to people who might not be as familiar?
Sure, yep. Osborne Neighborhood Alliance is a strong community-based organization based in Osborne on the northeast side of Detroit, Gratiot area, 8 Mile, Van Dyke. Our mission is really providing quality housing development in the neighborhood and business development, but also partnering up with various groups, various nonprofits, with the city and with the state. But our goal is to really push the quality of living in our neighborhoods and promoting our neighborhoods in a way that people can live, work, and play.
Yeah, so many different organizations that need to be involved in making something like that happen. It's good to be able to have a conduit to try to make those connections so that we can advance what we're all hoping to have here. And it's affordable housing that brings us here today. So tell me a little bit more about the Maple Ridge Housing Project and how did you come up with it?
Yeah. One of the great things about our neighborhood is that Detroit has very strong neighborhoods with quality housing stock. Unfortunately, we do have, and it's not as big as it used to be, 15 years ago, a blight issue, in particular around that 2008, 2009 during the Great Recession. So when that happened, a lot of neighborhoods, in particular Osborne, got really hit bad with that blight. individuals moving out. And what we decided to do, because a lot of residents was pulling us and asking us, you have to do something around this blight issue and housing issue. So we began just cleaning up in that particular area around Maple Ridge due to the fact that it was a path to our office. And what people were seeing coming in just did not feel right. So we did massive board ups, massive cleanups on Maple Ridge and around Maple Ridge. Once we did that, people got really excited. My board got excited about, hey, what's next? We did this cleanup. People want to go to the next level. And so we decided to do one rehab home on Maple Ridge. At that time, the Maple Ridge Street, there's 25 parcels on Maple Ridge. At that time, in 2015-16, there were only 5 homes that were occupied. The rest of the land and parcels was inactive. And so we adopted the one house, 13700 Maple Ridge, and rehabbed that particular home. And it was pretty interesting because people were saying no one would move on Maple Ridge, no one would move even in Detroit. And so I had something to prove. Yeah. And we partner up with the city, just telling the city, hey, we're doing this particular project. We would love for you to just be a part of it, and we just want to inform you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just want to jump in real quick because it sounds to me like this is a proof of concept that you didn't even know if you're going to have funding for. You just went for it, and once people see there's something behind it, then they kind of get on, and that's the way that you're able to get that ball rolling. Go ahead.
Right. Yes, and once we rehabbed the home, and our goal was to always sell it to someone living on the east side, living in Osborne that was renting at an affordable rate. So we sold the home to a resident that was renting not too far from Maple Ridge, and she bought the home. And now is a happy resident living on Maple Ridge. And at that time, the rest of the street was really just blighted. But I told her the rest of the homes will be renovated. But the seller was really the green space that we rehabbed. We rehabbed the park on Maple Ridge, turned it into an outdoor learning garden. So people were really attracted to that space because it was an active space that was there. So that was really the seller for the individual to buy the home. Yeah. It took us a while to do the rest of the homes, like 4 years later, to get the rest of the project off the ground with the duplexes. And the goal of the duplexes were saying, hey, a lot of times when you see multifamily, we tend to think about an absent landlord, right? Just renting out the whole building to renters. And the concept came when I said, can we sell these homes to homeowners that want to become landlords, live in one unit, rent out the other unit, but sell it to someone that is at a particular income, and then also rent out that unit to someone at a certain income.
Yeah, which brings in that Section 8 component. I want to jump in really quickly, though, because you do mention the duplexes. And, in Detroit, we're not quite as densely populated as you would expect for some inner cities where duplexes are more often looked at. A lot of people here are used to family homes, and you would think if we're more spread out, why wouldn't we do single family? So for you, why are duplexes the model here?
It's interesting that you say that. I used to live in the East Coast, New Jersey, and I owned out there. Density is very key out there. So I lived in a multifamily, and I rented out the second unit living there. So I took that concept and kind of like brought it here to Detroit. Despite the single family homes, a lot of times, like I said, people tend to think duplexes are not considered for a primary home, right? And so I was trying to change that narrative. Not only change that narrative, but hey, when you live in a duplex home, when you rent it out the second unit, a lot of the operating cost is covered by the second unit. So that income that you're saving, you can save that money, you can use it for other things, and still have a quality of life while living in your primary house.
Yeah, but what about the noise? What about that funky smell that's coming from the upstairs? I mean, what about those concerns that folks have here? Quincy, you've been in duplexes. What do you say to people who have those concerns about these duplexes?
I think the issue is that a lot of times these are landlords that are not living there and just renting out to anybody, right? When you're living there, you are the primary homeowner, so you're doing good screening.
Mm-hmm.
You're making sure that whoever's living in your particular home has the same quality and appreciation as if they are the homeowner. So those type of things, I think a lot of times people tend to think renters are not. There's no such thing as a good renter, right? But there are good renters who are looking for a quality place and would be a good renter. So the concept is not just to rent to bad renters. It's to find quality renters that will appreciate living in a quality renter unit.
Yeah.
The great thing about these units is that they're totally rehab, top quality. So when you walk inside, you know that you're getting something quality, and you know that you're going to keep it up.
All right.
And we want to help. Yeah, and we want to help our new homeowners learning how to screen, learning that how to get good tenants.
Well,
so those concerns,
No, I just want to say, first of all, I'm running up on time, and I just want to make sure that we understand if this can scale up, right? If this works out well, is there any plan for you on how to expand this project, maybe build more and renovate more duplexes? Because I hear from folks who are trying to build right now, a lot of the problem is getting construction, getting people who have the skills to do these rehabs. So is this something that's scalable? What are your guys' plans for it in the future?
Sure. Oh, yeah, most definitely. This project was really a collaboration project. It stands on the shoulders of so many partners: City of Detroit, LIST, the residents on Maple Ridge, the board, nonprofits. So, yes, it is scalable. The key thing with this project that it does need subsidies to get the project off the ground. So partner up with the City of Detroit to help get this project off the ground, and then Invest Detroit and Fifth Third to get the project. So, yes, scalable it is. And then having the right construction team. My construction team was prime construction and prime renovation and construction. We were able to get these homes off the ground, back online within 8 months. I'm getting it. The great thing about it is that who is buying these homes? These are local Detroiters who want to stay in Detroit and rebuild their neighborhood. And they're coming back with a sense of community, not just being a homeowner. I'm doing my own thing, but I want to get engaged. I want to grow my neighborhood. I want to grow Detroit. And so this project really aligns up with so many of the initiatives. Detroit Strategic Neighborhood Fund, Detroit Duplex Program, and then the state of Michigan. State of Michigan want to grow the population and get a lot of young people to move back and young families to move back in Detroit. So we believe that this is a scalable model that can really begin transforming our neighborhoods. And it really begins demystifying Detroit neighborhoods. As you know, many years ago, not too long ago, people weren't even thinking about Detroit neighborhoods.
Right, but hopefully now, because of these, we can get some more folks in here who want to stay. Quincy Jones, wish I could talk to you all day. We'll have to have you back as we monitor the project, but director of the Detroit nonprofit called Osborne Neighborhood Alliance, thank you so much for joining us on the Metro.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
This is The Metro on 1019 WDET FM. You just heard from Nick Austin. I'm Tia Graham. The National Football League visited Detroit schools and youth organizations in the days leading up to the NFL draft. The effort was meant to introduce kids to football, but they didn't advocate for tackle football. Instead, they pushed flag football. WDET's Sasha Ryan sought to learn why.
That is the sound of about 40 kids playing flag football in the gym at the Dixon Educational Learning Academy in Detroit. Sixth grader Mackenzie Taylor just learned to play.
So there's like flags. There's these, waistbands, and they have like parts down that the other team has to rip off. So you have to run with the ball in your hand, specific position, and you have to run. If the other team pulls off your flag, you are out. And if you make it there, you win. You get a point.
The NFL visited the school just days before the start of the draft and brought equipment for the game and staff to teach the kids to play it. They want to
spread the gospel of flag football, baby.
That's Bobby Taylor. He's a strategic advisor in the football operations department at the NFL. He's also a former player for the Philadelphia Eagles and Seattle Seahawks. He was one of the coaches for this introduction to flag football at Dixon. The NFL has made a major commitment to spreading the gospel of flag football. It plans to equip middle schools throughout Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties with game kits. Dixon was the first. Taylor says when the NFL shows up in a city for something like the draft, it brings initiatives like this with it.
When we come into these communities, we really want to go into the communities.
But Taylor says the NFL's focus on flag football in particular is strategic.
Yeah, so football is the number one sport in the world. And we wanted to be open to little boys, but also little girls.
When you ask flag football evangelists about the sport, they always mention the girls. Kara Scazzeri is with Gen Youth. They're working with the NFL and the Detroit Sports Commission to bring flag football to local schools. She says they have found equal interest among girls and boys in the sport.
It really connects the dots for girls and football, knowing that tackle may not be the path they want to take.
Scazzeri says kids may be introduced to the flag version at an earlier age, and it has more appeal for many parents and some kids.
Tackle football can really hurt you. Flag football, it's fun, good experiences.
Fifth grader Carter Jackson had played both traditional and flag football before the event at his school.
I play football for fun, but if I were ever to play football, I would definitely play flag football because it's way, way less harmful.
This is another reason the sport is growing, as players, parents, and fans have become more concerned about concussions, brain injuries, and other safety issues from tackle football. Flag football has become a popular alternative. So popular, the sport will make its Olympic debut in the summer of 2028, maybe even with NFL players on the field. Meanwhile, the Women's National Football Conference has teams in more than a dozen cities, and the Detroit Lions will host girls' flag football academies this summer in Detroit, Alpena, and Adrian.
That was reporting from WDET's Sasha Ryan. You can find WDET's reporting at WDET.org. This is The Metro.
It is the Metro on 1019 WDET, and coming up with Detroit bubbling with so many people for the NFL draft, we'll talk to someone with the official house band, keeping them fired up when we return on 1019 WDET.
Welcome back to the Metro right here on 1019 WDET FM. Just really quickly, sunny skies, 55 degrees. We expect a high of around 64 degrees today. This weekend, it'll warm up. We'll see Saturday, a little bit of rain, but a high of 77. And Sunday, we'll see a high around 80. So really excited about that warm weather coming up, and the draft is still here.
That's right. The NFL draft kicked off in a big way Thursday night as Detroit welcomed football fans from around the globe for the biggest night of the three-day event. A capacity crowd of 150,000 fans came to watch their favorite teams select potentially the next great prospect to help their teams in the upcoming football season. But while the event showcases the next generation of football talent, it's also providing opportunities for local performers to showcase their skills on the big stage. Metro Detroit's Collision 6 is one of those performers selected as the official house band of the NFL Draft. But what exactly does it mean to be the house band for such a big event? And how were they selected? And what's the experience been like? To learn more, we're joined by the band leader of Collision 6, Matt Rappaport. Matt, welcome to the Metro.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. Also, before we get into the experience for the NFL Draft, you've already performed once. You're going to be performing some more. What is Collision 6, and how did the band start?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I'll tell you, Collision 6 started in 2002 as an original band, playing pop rock music and, where anyone would ever listen to us. And slowly over the years, it was like, let's play a bar gig. And then somebody said, hey, I think you guys would be good playing weddings and events. And we started doing that. And so it's just evolved over time. And as people have moved on in their life to, go on to family life or career or whatever it was, we've upped the game and better musicians have joined the band. And we are now just a force.
All right. Well, the Collision 6 sounds like a force, right? The title has me thinking, though, is it destiny for you to be in this position right now? Like, right? I think collisions, that's blocking and tackling. That's football right there. 6, most important number in football. That's how many points you get for a touchdown.
That's right.
Is the name just a long-term con to get the NFL draft that you were thinking when you invented this? How long ago did Collision 6 even start?
Right. 22 years ago we started.
Yeah, so 22 years in the making. You thought of this point, or where does that name even come from?
So the funny thing is the name actually got started because when we were really getting started as a band, all the bands that were out there that were on the radio all had numbers in their names, at least the ones I was listening to. Blink 182, Matchbox 20, Sum 41. The list goes on and on and on. So we were like, we have to have a number in the name. And our group originally, the original musicians in the band, we all got connected in the city of Novi, right? And I don't know if this is an urban legend or if it's true, but supposedly like the train stop number 6, that's how it got its name, N-O, and then the Roman numerals, V-I. Oh. So we took the 6 from the Novi concept, and that's where we came up with 6 for our group.
You know what? That's a better story. I'll go with that one. But how did you end up becoming the official house band of the NFL draft, right? I mean, did you have write-in campaign? Like, do they have auditions? Like, how does this happen?
Yeah, believe it or not, it's just kind of one of those like right place, right time kind of situations.
How I got this job.
I know, right? And so we, we do our thing. We go out, we play as many public shows as we can fit into our schedule. And it just so happened that one of the decision makers with the production company that's handling the live event had seen us play. And so when the opportunity came up, they called us instead of, we didn't apply. I knew the draft was going on, but I didn't even know how to break through that. We got a call one day and it was just like, hey, you guys would be perfect for this. Do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, no question.
Yeah,
let's go.
All right. Well, great. I love preparation meets opportunity. That's success, right? But what does it mean to be the official house band of the NFL draft? I mean, what are your responsibilities? What have you been up to?
Yeah, it's fast paced and it's slow paced at the same time. It's been a crazy experience. So we did the first round last night, and so we get to kick off the live show every night with a 10-minute set. And they basically said, do whatever you want for 10 minutes. Bring the energy and make it fun. But last night we did some Motown stuff. Tonight we're going to go a little bit more current pop stuff. Yeah. But then we play in between the picks. So the host will come up on stage, they interact with the crowd, and then at some point they go, all right, let's send it over to our house band. And then the producer just goes in our ears and he's like, all right, band, go.
Right. And where are you guys even situated for this? How can people see you and see you perform? Where are you at?
We are on the main stage.
How awesome
we are
is that?
About 20 feet from the podium where the picks are announced, and we're right on the same level.
Oh, my gosh. That's got to be amazing as we speak with Matt Rappaport, the band leader for Collision 6, the official house band of the NFL draft. And for you, being a part of that, you also get to look out from the stage then and just see this sea of people. What's the experience like downtown, especially for people who haven't had a chance to see it? What's it been like from your vantage point to see all of this happening?
The energy down there is next level, like nothing I've ever seen. From where we are, we get a really good glimpse of the theater. And so all the super fans that are in the center pit, we can see their faces, and it's really cool, and it feels more intimate, almost like we're playing a private party that we've played before. Just past that, you see the sea of people. And from where we are, you can't see the end of the sea of the people. It's just a sea of people. So it's just it's nuts. And then seeing some of the pictures this morning that people took, the overhead shots where it's like you just see, dots of people. Yeah. It's wild. It's absolutely electric down there.
Well, 2 more nights where you get a chance to see them, as again, we've got Friday night and Saturday night where the draft is still happening. So 2 more opportunities to see Collision 6 perform live downtown. But for people who aren't so familiar with your sound, want to learn more about your work, can you let us know, first of all, what's the best way for them to find out more about what you guys do?
Yeah, so I think the starting point for us is our website, c6band.com, but we're on all the social channels with the handle @c6band. Right. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I think we're on Twitter. We might even have a Pinterest page. So we're everywhere. Spreading the love.
If you want to get your little knitted booties of Collision 6, you'll be able to get them on Pinterest. That's fantastic also. I like that you have it all covered there. One more thing, though. You kind of described your sound a little bit about what you guys do. But for folks who haven't seen you perform, what would be your pitch for why they need to see a Collision 6 performance?
So I think we do 2 things that I don't know that a lot of other people can do. Number one is we are 100% high energy from start to finish, and we don't stop. When you come out to see, now at the draft, we have to stop because they have to announce the picks, right? But you can see it in that little 10-minute segment. When we play a private party, we don't stop. We transition from song to song. We mash up songs. We go in, we go out, because we know that 5 to 10 seconds of silence is enough to clear a dance floor out, and we don't want that ever to happen. We want the energy up and people smiling, singing, dancing all the time.
Well, I got one co-signer. Producer Sam Corey says it's so true. He knows because he was at a wedding where you performed. So shouts out there.
All right. That's
Matt
awesome.
Rappaport, band leader for Collision 6. Thank you so much for joining us on the Metro.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And like I said, you can see Collision 6 perform at the NFL Draft tonight and tomorrow, Saturday, as they will be performing as the official house band of the NFL Draft.
This is The Metro on 101.9 WDET FM. Just heard from Nick Austin. I'm Tia Graham. Now, medical debt, the largest form of debt, is a big problem in America. Both Wayne and Oakland counties are now working with a nonprofit to clear medical debt for thousands of its residents. But there is a question about why we have this problem in the first place, especially as it doesn't exist in most developed countries. WDET Stephen Henderson recently sat down with economist Richard Vaughan, author of Paradox of Debt. They began this conversation on Created Equal by discussing what's happening in Oakland and Macomb counties.
2 counties in Michigan are saying they would like to eliminate medical debts for a number of different residents. They're working with a nonprofit to buy debt for pennies on the dollar. I wonder what you make of this approach.
Yeah, this is a real problem / opportunity. I think that, the United States, different from most other major developed countries, does not have broad government support for health care. And so you have folks facing medical emergencies where their insurance doesn't properly cover it, or they have a surprise medical bill. And that's one of the biggest contributors to hardship and bankruptcy that we have among households in the United States. If we had a better, more comprehensive medical insurance coverage, we wouldn't see a lot of this. So for that very reason, I'm very much in favor of anything we can do to provide relief on the medical debt side. In the situations you're talking about, the individual has already been struggling with it. The institution that made them extended them the credit, which might be the hospital itself, by the way, has already written that loan off. And so that debt is already trading at 1 or 2 cents on the dollar. And is sometimes sold to collection agencies for 1 or 2 cents on the dollar. And if they can get 3 cents on the dollar when they collect, they make a profit. And, it ends up in a raft of phone calls and heartache and struggles and the like. So we see some organizations going in and buying off that debt for a 1 or 2 cents on the dollar and canceling it to give relief to those debt holders. I mean, to those individuals.
Yeah.
I love that and am fully in favor of it.
So I want to talk though about this type of debt more broadly. As you point out, it's almost true that no one who issues this debt really expects to collect it anyway. It seems like this is not real debt so much as it is burden, right? It's different from other kinds of debt. And it is something that holds people either back from economic advance or pushes them back into economic trouble. Why do we do it that way?
Well, this is a particularly problematic area because it's, as you've suggested, it's not somebody who planned to buy a car and bought it, or planned to do some other thing and borrowed to do that, and that loan's got their lives have taken a turn and they're unable to pay it. This is an unexpected expense, and a lot of times with the healthcare plans being somewhat complicated, it's what we call an out-of-network expense.
Right.
You use the doctor or had to use a doctor that's not covered under your plan. So instead of getting $1,000 bill, you get a $50,000 bill or something like that. Well, the average family can't even begin to hope to pay that. Now, the majority of bills the hospital sends out, are not like that, and they get paid. And
yes.
and people act in good faith. I mean, that's one of the wonderful things about this life that we live is that people try and they act in good faith. So most of that debt does get paid, but there's a small percentage, typically, call it a low single digit percentage, that the individuals simply don't have the capacity to pay, and the hospital doesn't have the capacity to extend the terms sufficiently, and that's where all the heartache lies.
Is there a better way to think about these things than in the sort of classic borrower or lender context? Again, this seems not like other forms of debt, and I'm wondering why we treat it that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's as I go and discuss household debt with colleagues in other countries around the world, they're always a little, surprised at the problems we have in this area because they simply don't have them. I'm talking the United Kingdom and Germany and France and places like that, Japan and others, where they simply have a better system from the standpoint of paying for these kind of things. So we're kind of, as far as the developed countries are concerned, we're kind of on our own in that regard. And, there are ways, I think that we, one of the ideas, one of the smartest guys I know in the healthcare space thinks that the first step we should take that he views, and I have studied and I view as a pretty easy step, would be to extend Medicare down to folks that are at the age of 50 or 55.
Right.
That, that's where a lot of these problems are. Young people tend to be a lot healthier, and a lot of these problems are, it's already a well-established and well-trusted system. And if you did that for folks that took advantage of that, this problem would go away.
That was WDET Stephen Henderson speaking with economist Richard Vega about medical debt on Created Equal. You can find episodes of Created Equal on WDET.org or wherever you find your podcasts. This is The Metro. I'm Tia Graham. Nick Austin is here, and coming up, we'll discuss what a few football legends said at the NFL Draft VIP event. Not new legends, these are well-known legends, but that's coming up on The Metro. Welcome back to The Metro, right here on 101.9 WDET FM. And Nick?
Yeah, that's right. Earlier this week, we had a chance to chat with Jerome the Bus Bettis about a youth sports conference happening right now during the NFL Draft. Well, last night, the conference hosted a VIP panel where former and current football players discussed the NFL draft and reflected on memories of the night they were selected to be in the NFL. You, Tia Graham, had that story.
To usher in the NFL draft, the Boys and Girls Club of Southeastern Michigan hosted a 2-day conference. The 3C Sports Conference, in collaboration with Hall of Fame wide receiver and Detroit native Jerome Bettis, aimed to highlight all aspects of the football industry. From sports business to mental health to getting paid as a student athlete, the goal was to spread knowledge to young athletes. The first evening included a VIP panel discussion moderated by Detroit native and contributing writer for The Atlantic, Jamil Hill. And there were no shortage of VIPs at the event, with appearances from former running back Barry Sanders, current Detroit Lions defensive tackle Aleem McNeil, former Detroit Lions receiver Calvin Megatron Johnson, and longtime sports writer Adam Schefter. Of course, a big topic of conversation was the team hosting the draft, the Detroit Lions. In the past, the Lions have often picked very high in the draft due to poor results in season after season, leaving fans biting their nails and hoping a first-round pick could fix all of the team's problems. But now, since his first draft with the Lions in 2021, General Manager Brad Holmes has excelled in drafting impact players in and out of the first round. One of those players is Aleem McNeil. Holmes drafted the defensive tackle in the third round of that year's draft. McNeil remembers his draft day as a moment of confusion until the Detroit spirit set in.
And then I remember from 8 Mile, when I had watched 8 Mile. I watched 8 Mile that week. That's what was crazy. I watched it that week. And I remember, I was like, wait, 313? And I was like, oh, this is Detroit. And so I was geeked to answer the phone and everything.
Barry Sanders recalls his nervous excitement on the day he was drafted.
And it was excitement, man. I was excited. I was nervous. Jerome said I was definitely nervous. I felt like we had to explain to everyone, please don't call. We're waiting for important call from the NFL today, hopefully.
And when asked about how Lions fans are feeling about this year's draft, Jamil Hill said the excitement for who the Lions end up picking comes with a sigh of relief.
So imagine that luxury now as a Lions fans where you don't even know, you know what they need, but you don't have to stay abreast of the players in the same way because of where you're drafting.
And whoever the Lions draft this year, Aleem McNeil trusts in GM Brad Holmes.
I don't have a specific position at all. Whoever they pick, I trust them because Brad and Dan and Ray, they know what they're doing up there. So, no, I don't have a specific position at all, though. I'm just looking forward to who they bring to the squad. I know they're going to bring a dog in. So
the NFL draft continues through Saturday, April 27th in downtown Detroit. The Lions did draft Alabama cornerback Terrion Arnold. Hearing a lot of big news about Terrion Arnold. So excited to see that the Lions did actually choose a pick yesterday.
Yeah, they did. And they chose someone who wanted to be there. He implored the Lions to not only move up in the draft because they had to give up draft capital. They gave up something to make the selection move up and get them. But hopefully that means a good marriage between player and team. So looking forward to that at a position that we need help at.
Are you familiar with Terrion Arnold?
Absolutely not.
All right,
I'll tell you.
We'll learn.
But I didn't watch quite as much college football as maybe I should have. But part of the reason was because the pro team was doing so well.
How about this? We'll learn now.
That's
we'll know
right.
now because he's on the roster. Just want to say thank you to WDET's Alex McLennan, as well as Detroit reporter Bryce Huffman for helping me collect some of those questions, because on the scene there, you're with NFL players. I'm sitting there like, I know sports, but do I know sports? Not as much as I thought I knew sports. So
there's a lot to know with sports.
It's so much.
Sometimes I think maybe I know too much sports.
I don't think so.
Would I be smarter if I didn't have some of this knowledge rattling around, like how to beat a cover 3 with press man coverage on the side?
Honestly,
by the way, those two things don't go together. But the fact that I know that means maybe I know too much.
Yeah, I think you may want to put a survival skill in there or two. At least I try to do that. But that is the Metro for Friday, April 26th. You can listen to recent episodes online at WDET.org and make sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
The show is produced by Sam Corey, David Lyons, and Jack Philbrandt. Our engineer is Nate Bender.
The show is produced. Oh, you just said that. The Metro is a production of WDET, a listener-supported service of Wayne State University. How about we just want to say thank you to those people all the time, and we just want to hug them and say thank you all the time. But if you like what you hear and want to support the Metro, consider becoming a member at WDET.org/donate.
This is WDET-FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation. Thanks for listening. Have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, enjoy the weather.
WDET is supported by the College of Business Administration at University of Detroit Mercy. UDM is offering a new master's degree in ethical leadership focused on sustainable, ethical, and inclusive problem solving. More information at business.udmercy.edu.